managers know that drugs can change behavior in these ways. Drugs can increase activity. Drugs can decrease activity. Drugs can cause people to hear, feel, or see things that really do not exist. A drug may affect all people in at least one of these three ways. This is called the general behavioral effect of drugs. However, the same drug can affect different people in different ways. For example, LSD, an hallucinogen, might have this effect on assistant 1. Or the same LSD might affect another person, assistant 2, in this way. In other words, drugs have specific behavioral effects for different people. It is also true that the same drug can affect the same person in different ways at different times. The first time assistant 1 was given LSD, this was the effect. The second time assistant 1 was given LSD, this was the effect. In other words, a drug may have different effects on the same person at different times. I'm going to put you in the position of decision maker. Which of the three possible behavioral effects does the following show? The effect of the drug taken by my assistants was a general behavioral effect. Both went to sleep. Let's try another example. This will be tougher. Right. That was an example of how the same drug can have a different effect on the same person at different times. We have now covered the general information about the effects of drugs. Here is a summary of what you know. 1. How is the drug taken? 2. How does the drug change behavior? 3. What are the different behavioral effects of the specific type of drug? 4. Does the drug create psychological and/or physical dependence or tolerance? Later on, you will be given information on different types of drugs. To give you an idea of how this outline works, I will describe the effects of marijuana with the help of my assistant. Marijuana is usually inhaled from a kind of cigarette. Marijuana changes behavior by briefly stimulating and then depressing activity. It can also change behavior by creating mild hallucinations. Different people taking marijuana may see different things. Assistant 1 might have this reaction, whereas marijuana might cause assistant 2 to see this. Some people do not hallucinate. Marijuana may make the same person hallucinate one time and hungry the next. Marijuana creates a psychological dependence. No tolerance is developed. Knowing how a drug is taken, how it affects behavior, and what kind of a dependence it creates will help you decision makers identify the type of drug disaster. You people are the decision makers. The data on the effects of drugs which you now have is only one area which you must consider in trying to figure out the nature of a drug disaster. There are other clues which you must consider. The diagram that you see is a summary of the different areas you must cover. In other words, for each type of drug, for example, LSD, narcotics, barbiturates, etc., you will be given information about need, source, use, effects, and medical treatment. Only when you have all this data will you be able to make an accurate decision about the type of drug being used. We can cross out drug effects since you already know about these. A need can be defined as a lack of something necessary or desired. When a need is a lack of something necessary, we call it a physical need. For example, when we are hungry, we eat food. When we are hurt, we need relief from pain. Doctors sometimes use drugs to give relief from pain. They are trained to provide only enough to relieve pain. Doctors know the danger of an overdose. Some drugs, when not taken under medical care, can create a physical need themselves. This we call physical drug dependence. Without certain drugs, the drug user has a lack of something which has become necessary. When a need is a lack of something desired, we call this a psychological need. With a psychological need, we have learned to desire something.
That question can be answered by Einstein's formula, E equals mc squared.
For example, we learn to desire approval from our friends. We need approval. Often a person takes drugs illegally because of a psychological need to do what his friends are doing to avoid disapproval. It is this kind of a psychological need that leads to psychological drug dependence. The person learns to desire drugs. Most people find adequate ways to fill their needs, while others do not adjust as well. You have to decide what types of needs are most likely to lead to drug use, and based on your data, you must try to fill these needs. As decision makers, you must ask 3 questions about the source of a drug. The first question is the drug made from a plant or a chemical? The second is, in what area of the world is the drug produced? And the third is, from whom will the user purchase the drug? Let's use heroin as an example and ask all 3 questions about the source of the drug. Heroin is made from morphine, which in turn is made from a plant commonly known as the opium poppy. A large percentage of the opium poppies are grown by farmers in the Middle East. The farmer can sell 22 pounds of opium to a manufacturer of heroin for about $350. The heroin manufacturer extracts from the opium about 2.5 pounds of morphine, which he changes into heroin. The heroin manufacturer smuggles the heroin into the United States through any of our ports, most often through New York and California. By diluting the doses and selling small doses of heroin through the drug distribution system, the original $350 paid to the farmer results in a profit of over $200,000 for the drug syndicate that manufactured and distributed the illegal drug. You are decision makers. Think about these facts. You decision makers already know that the drug user can take drugs in 3 different ways. They can be swallowed, they can be inhaled, or they can be injected. Drugs can be used legally only under a doctor's care and or for certain well-controlled research. Or drugs can be abused. Drug abuse is when a person does not follow the doctor's directions and takes more of the drug than the doctor has prescribed. Drug abuse is also taking a drug without a medical need. In other words, taking a drug obtained illegally. You decision makers already have data about drug need. Drug need and drug use go hand in hand. You know that certain types of people are more likely to use drugs. Did you know that the average age of the marijuana user is under 18 years? The average heroin user is somewhat older, in his early 20s. Drug abuse is not limited to a single age group. Drug abuse may be a problem at any age.